My name's Tom Stark. I live at 59613 West Beaver Hill Road. I'm 400 feet from their access. I'm 0.34 miles from Seven Devils mine site, which makes Mr. Barton somewhat incorrect when he says that nobody lives within a half mile. There's 5 people that live within a half mile of West Section 10 and the South Section Devils.
Yes.
Tom
Mr.
Stark.
Whitty, hang on a minute. Yes, Mr. Whitty?
Would you make sure the speakers are speaking into that microphone?
Okay. He needs to get really close to that thing. I know you're very tall.
Yeah, the microphone was pointing towards my chest, sorry.
Can you hear better now? Can you hear better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
I sent all 3 of you, the commissioners, an email, and I'll just go by that. I like the idea of limiting the total time of the lease to the 5, 3, and 3. It seems kind of strange to give them a 20-year lease. I've got a bad sneaking suspicion that after the 5 years of tax abatement that they may want to cut back on their processes. We don't have any guarantees that they will be here for the first 5 years or the second 3 years. There's already been a lot of talk on the royalties, so I won't go into that again. There's been a lot of talk on the lease being open to third-party participation. That was clarified for me by your legal counsel. But as far as the assignments, says that this lease is based in part upon the skills and the expertise of the leasee. I'm kind of concerned in the fact that we see them building a plant. We have not seen any mining. We have not seen any profit. We have not seen any production. We have not seen any shipping. How can we as citizens of the county say that this is based on the skills and expertise when we have not been shown anything but building a processing plant? So that takes care of what I want to say about the third-party participation. 2 different areas. This lease says that the ORC will abide by all laws pertaining to this operation. ORC has not shown any intent on complying with the Oregon state noise laws under their current conditional use permit, which limits them to 5 days a week, 8 till 10 at night. Not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. ORC gives, here's another point, ORC gives the county 30 days to review and to reply to their plan of operations. If that 30 days is over without a written reply from the county, ORC will take that as you approve of their plan of operations. In conversations with many state agencies, ORC has changed their plan of operations from a little bit to significantly, but any of the other state agencies are not limited to a 30-day limit to give them a reply. I think that the 30-day limit, unless you have somebody that you're going to hire to stay on top of ORC throughout the lease that can comply with this 30-day limit, I think that's a little bit tough for the county to comply with. ORC has requested that the county's inspection rights be limited. This is publicly owned land. This is the land owned by the citizens of this county. I would like to see that the inspection rights for what they're doing on our own land is not limited. And then the entire section for the compensation of the timber puts the county at a complete disadvantage. All decisions are made by the leasee. If there's any concerns, then they picked out 3 different, groups that would weigh in on these concerns. I have a lot of faith, living in the county forest, I have a lot of faith in our county foresters and their management expertise and their management tactics. Those are my major concerns. Some of the other concerns I have been dealt with already. I wish Mr. Barton had stayed here because there's a lot of different facts that he put into the paper, and it gets very frustrating as a neighbor that has concerns about this process to be excluded from letters to the editor and excluded from FONSI. And I guess my last question is, Friends of New and Sustainable Industry, I'd like to know when the last time strip mining was considered sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am? Sure. Mr. Parry?
Thank you, Commissioner Main. My name is Cam Parry. I live at 62556 Crown Point Road. And it's sure as hell good to hear your voice, Nikki. I hope we're going to see you in person here soon.
Thanks, Cam.
There's just a couple things. I think most of the people here are in favor of ORC being a good neighbor, being an active contributor to this county and being a part of it. I think all of us here in this room felt that if they could protect our watersheds and our aquifers and our public health and our fisheries, and we could negotiate a fair and equitable deal, then we would welcome them with open arms to Coos County, because that's what we need. I think it's really important to consider when we're talking numbers, as far as what they can provide to the county, is that the numbers we're talking about are what they've offered to the public to convince us that this is the way to go. And I got to tell you, these numbers are very impressive that they've offered. When we're talking $32,000 to $130,000 per year for royalty total for acre. That's a really good amount, and it can easily replace timber revenue on that property. But as Commissioner Main said, I too believe that I think we need a guarantee, and I think that guarantee needs to be for more than $5,000 if we're going to consider one of the most important business ventures we've ever gotten into as a county. Now, a lot of times I've heard like the ORC officials and their attorney talk about sharing the risk, making sure the county is protected, making sure ORC is protected. And I think there's a way to do that. I think that minimum revenue can be paid, that minimal guaranteed royalty, and it might even be in the form of splitting it right down the middle, where we're asking for $30,000 an acre, and they provide $15,000 cash, and they provide $15,000 in a stock price to be determined by both parties. In other words, the additional revenue is put up in terms of stock. That way, the county of Coos and ORC share the risk equally. If ORC does well, then the county of Coos does well too. There's other things we talked about. We talked about doing adequate due diligence and during the length of these discussions and going over what was available to us and putting everything on the table. Well, there was something we talked about over a year ago, and I said I wanted to get it on the table, not so much because I wanted to do it, but because I wanted us to have something to compare the terms of this lease to, and that was carbon credits. We started a discussion with Nikki and then brought you and Bob over a year ago, and we were told that out of the envelope figures would guarantee us about an upfront payment of possibly $5 million or more initially to do a carbon credit overlay on county forest land. That's something we should do as an exercise regardless of whether there's a lease involved or not, because it could be additional revenue to a county that's pretty cash strapped. Well, when I brought that up again at the April meeting when we had our public hearing, I was told by Commissioner Stuffelmean that he had met with members of EcoTrust and told that a carbon credit deal was off the table. I'm very sorry he isn't here because I'd like to talk to him about that. I was surprised at that. I mentioned my surprise because we had been dealing with the heads of the carbon credit program in EcoTrust, and I had not been told anything like this. Nikki very sweetly defended Commissioner Stuffelmean and said, well, Cam, it's a new program. Things are changing rapidly. It might be off the table. Well, it turns out that it wasn't. It turns out that the officials at EcoTrust who were in charge of this program and who were negotiating with the county had never pulled the deal from the table and had never talked to Commissioner Stuffelmean. I don't think that's putting everything on the table. I think we need to put everything on the table. They apologized to me for any misinformation that was disseminated in that meeting. And you know what? I decided to let it go. I thought, things are going to take its course with Coos County, and I'm not a confrontational kind of guy. But when I'm told something that's not true, that kind of gets my dander up as a citizen of Coos County. And I think we all need to be protected. And when you consider a lease, you need to consider any available option that's shown as being also possible for the county to do. And carbon credits were a possibility. I'm not saying they were the best way to go. We probably would easily be able to show that these mining leases are going to do a lot better for all of us in this county. But you need to keep those things on the table, and you don't need to yank them through some sort of a backwards way of doing things. All the people in Coos County want is a fair lease deal, and they want a little honesty and transparency in the process, and I really don't think that's too much to ask. Thank you.